All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. We're talking about the Detroit Lions in today's video. As we know, Detroit's a really good football team, right? They won 12 games last season. They won the NFC North for the first time since the 90s. They won 2 playoff games. They were right in it with San Francisco to make it to the promised land, to make it to the Super Bowl. And, post-game, Dan Campbell, after they lost the NFC Championship game, just kind of kept it a buck and was like, look, man, I don't know if we'll get back to this moment. We had a great opportunity. I don't know if we'll get back to this. And, that had nothing to do with the roster in itself. It more had to do with the way the NFL moves. And it just moves really quickly. Teams get better. Teams fall off. You get the gist here. So Dan Campbell was asked on if this season was a Super Bowl or bust season. And he said, I don't see a bust. I see a Super Bowl. I don't know what bust is. And I got to tell you, the more I look into it, specifically the secondary, the more I'm hearing from OTAs, Lions, Jameson Williams, hyped as man on a mission by head coach Dan Campbell. The more I'm looking into it, the more I'm reading on it, the more I'm watching, this Detroit Lions team is loaded. But what's even crazier is now because you re-signed or you extended Amon-Ra St. Brown, you got Aiden Hutchinson, you just extended Jared Goff, you drafted dudes like Jahmyr Gibbs, Jack Campbell, Sam Laporta, Brian Branch. Like, their draft class last year was insane. This team's loaded for the future and for the present. It's just one of, if not the best team in the entire National Football League. So welcome back to the channel. I hope you guys had a great weekend. Hit that like button, hit that sub button for daily NFL content. We make at least one Lions video over on this channel every single week. So if we try and get this video to 250 likes, that would mean the absolute world to me. So I'm sure you guys have been seeing it. Jameson Williams has been getting praised by Dan Campbell for the last couple of weeks. And it's funny, I was actually just reading a article. I was making a video on the Minnesota Vikings, and the headliner was so clickbaity. It was like, Jameson Williams, don't worry about Jameson Williams. And basically the article contained like, oh, we just haven't seen it on the field yet. Jameson Williams is about to have a breakout season, in my opinion. But I was reading an article on prideofdetroit.com. All right. And the question was, which Lions player had the most promising reports from week 1 of OTAs? This is an article. You can follow him on Twitter at Detroit Online. His name is Jeremy Reisman. It was a great article. And his answer was this. I think the easy answer would be Jameson Williams, just based on Dan Campbell's praise alone. However, I was most encouraged by a player opposite him. Cornerback Carlton Davis. In my opinion, he made quite a first impression in Detroit. The stickiness and the physical nature of his coverage was apparent. I know we're all excited about the new rookie cornerbacks in the room, but don't forget that Detroit believes they traded for a cornerback 1 in Davis. We knew he was a good cover guy and he'll tackle on the perimeter. Campbell said back in March, there are just things he can do where he can take his side of the field away. So Carlton Davis is 27 years old. And because he missed a chunk of the season due to an injury, which, I will admit, injuries have been a concern in Carlton Davis's career. It's not like, he'll miss like, the whole chunk of the season. It'll be more of like these, kind of nagging injuries where he'll miss a couple of weeks. He'll miss a couple of games. He'll finish the season with 2, 3, 4 missed games. So I will admit that's, something to keep an eye on. However, he's 27 years old. He didn't play all of last year, but he had 9 passes defended, 52 tackles, 2 interceptions. He's 6'1". He's 206. He's fast. He ran a 4.53 40-yard dash. Once again, he's 27 years old. But here's the thing. When you look into the advanced statistic, Carlton Davis was a beast. Carlton Davis in man coverage last year per PFF, 60% completion percentage allowed, no touchdowns allowed in man, 75.1 passer rating when targeted, 68.8 PFF grade. So, you just got cornerback 1. Cam Sutton was supposed to. Right. And that just never came to fruition. So you just acquired your lockdown cornerback 1 through a trade a couple of months ago. But it doesn't end just there. When we look at the roster reset for the Detroit Lions, your defense on paper stands as this. Mainly Aiden Hutchinson, Aleem McNeil, DJ Reader, Alex Anzalone, Jack Campbell, Carlton Davis, Terrion Arnold, Kirby Joseph, and Melifonwu. So in round 1, pick 24, you picked up Terrion Arnold. Now, the Lions allowed 34 completions, thrown at least 20 yards downfield last season. That tied for the Houston Texans with the second most in the NFL. Quote from Dan Campbell, He's a physical player. He's a willing participant in the tackle game. So we saw this similar formula actually for the last couple of seasons, but it was very evident last year with guys like Brian Branch, who are just eager to hit wide receivers. They're eager to hit. And in today's era, in today's day and age, guys are worried about contracts. Guys are worried, rightfully so, about their bodies. But you just don't see that kind of smash mouth physicality, especially in defensive backs, in today's era. For some reason, you just don't see it. And like I said, from a player perspective, I totally understand it. But if I'm crafting a team, I want players who are putting their bodies out on the line, because that's football. That's football how I was raised. That's football what I know. And that's what you got in Carlton Davis, but that's especially what you got in Terrion Arnold. He could easily be the best cornerback in the entire draft. And even though they did have to slightly trade up, and it was, kind of critiqued what they gave up for pick number 24, Terrion Arnold's a day one starter. And just with those two moves, you just severely improved, severely bolstered your secondary from last season. Like, it's not even close. It's night and day difference. But where things get really interesting, that wasn't even on that picture that you just saw, was your second round pick number 61, Ennis Rakestraw Jr., a cornerback out of Missouri. Now, his story is so cool. He was a 3-star guy coming out of high school. He went to Mizzou. He killed it, tore his ACL, bounced back. Here's the thing. His stats don't really tell the full tale, because he was thrown to like 23 times last year. Like, this dude was a lockdown cornerback one. He was projected in the first round, actually. And that's what's so crazy, is he fell all the way to pick 61 because of how the first 20 picks or so in this year's draft were all offense, or mainly offense, right? So Ennis Rakestraw is going to be a day one starter, in my opinion. His story is so cool. This is the same type of mold, the same type of archetype that you've been drafting, that you drafted in Terrion Arnold in the first round. Folks, I read mock drafts where the Detroit Lions took this dude in the first round. He fell all the way to 61. Detroit's defense allowed 28 passing touchdowns last year, which was the 6th worst in the league, and marked the 5th straight season that they ranked in the bottom 10 in passing touchdowns allowed. Rakestraw allowed 1 touchdown all season, but he was only targeted on 8% of his coverage snaps. Getting even worse, sorry, Lions fans, the Lions allowed 7.8 yards per pass attempt last season. Only the Bengals at 8.1 were worse. Rakestraw allowed 13 completions on 22 attempts when targeted, but keep in mind, only 5 of those attempts were thrown on passes 15 yards or more downfield. People did not, and he's playing in the SEC, folks. You're playing Bama, you're playing Georgia, you're playing really good QBs. They didn't throw it to his side of the ball. They just did not do it. So I'm looking at this defense, I'm looking at this secondary, I'm looking at this roster in general, and I'm thinking, yeah, I don't care. We said this in our last Lions video. I don't care what the record is. I literally do not care. All I care about the Detroit Lions this upcoming season is development and progression, specifically with this youthful secondary. But what I want to see mainly and most importantly is health, because if Detroit is at least close to fully healthy by the time the playoffs come around, folks, they are going to make the Super Bowl. And in my opinion, they would probably win the Super Bowl if these secondary players, these youthful secondary players, are as good as they appear. So thank you guys for watching. Hit that like button, hit that sub button. Give me a confidence rating scale on your defensive back room. 1 out of 10, 10 being very confident for the Detroit Lions secondary this upcoming season. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you soon.